Today's episode is sponsored by Taylor Health. Taylor Health focus on an integrative approach and specialise in preventative lifestyle factors that can optimise overall health and well-being. From health coaching, looking at lifestyle and behaviours, functional nutrition, meal planning and recipes, phlebotomy services for health screening for a multitude of reasons including health monitoring, fertility testing, pre and post surgical testing, sports and athletic performance testing and hormone monitoring. They also provide therapeutic venesection for individuals with hemochromatosis and those on testosterone replacement therapy. Let Taylor Health prioritise your health and well-being, and be sure to mention the Jim King Show to receive your discount. You can now click on the link in the description of this video for all services. Thank you for everyone watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
And there was this huge argument in the house after they'd come back about me, and he made a move towards my mum. And this was the first time I stood up and went toe to toe with my father. That was the moment things really changed. Because the next day he got up, came into the room, he said, "Get out of this house." I ended up that night going down to Hong Kong Harbour. There was a pier called Blake Pier that went out into Hong Kong Harbour. There was a restaurant at the end, and there was a few homeless people sleeping there. That's where I went. So there was a row of bathrooms there, and I'd go in and I'd have a morning shower with a mug over the sink. This will cheer you up. And he got this wee packet out. There was this white powder on it, and he rolled up like a $10 note, made a line of this white powder, and he showed me what to do and sniffed this.
What was the white powder?
It's heroin. If at any point in this conversation I'm not saying we're taking heroin, you have to realise we were taking heroin. It was keep away from these triads. They are dangerous.
I know it starts to get really serious, more chaotic.
Yeah.
The serious crime then comes.
The serious crime then comes.
Can you speak me through that?
Okay, I'm going to be very careful with some of these things. Let's just say there were a couple of gold shops were robbed in central Hong Kong. I'm not going to say when and what date. My parents know where I am. Everybody from school knows where I am. All the teachers, everybody knows where I am. The whole society knows where I am. Nobody's there.
The legend himself, Stewart Burton, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jim.
It's great to have you on, mate. It's an absolute honour. An incredible life story. You've been through some time of it in your younger years, going back into your early teens. I know you were mixed up with Chinese triads, drugs, armed robberies, and then you were through the notorious prisons in China.
That's right.
Before we get right into this mad story,
Sure.
if you can speak me through what you've got going on in the now and the present, what's going on with you, Stuart?
Sure. Well, I'm fortunate to be in the position where I've got a team of people that have helped me come up with this book of my story. So we're just, at the moment, about to launch it. Should we launch in the next couple of weeks? Got a website, got the artwork done for it. So pretty excited about it, to be honest with you, Jim.
It's great to hear, mate. I can't wait to actually get a copy myself.
Well, it's 2 parts. So this will be part 1, which kind of finishes when I leave the first prison, and part 2 is when I go into the second prison. So that should be coming out about a month's time after part 1.
Fascinating, mate. Such a powerful story. So I'll now take you back
Sure.
to like your early memories.
Okay.
Your first chapter.
Right, okay, yeah. Well, I grew up in Newton Mearns, the south side of Glasgow. I was a quiet boy, my mother always said. And kind of went into school. And from an early age, I think I knew myself. I had a few wee issues. I was a wee bit different from the other kids. And I think right from the start, I found myself having problems kind of fitting in school. Be doing daft things to get attention. Just wee naughty things that the teachers would frown upon, but anything really serious. And I just found it a real struggle to make friends and connect with different people in school. So I found the first early years of school quite sad, I suppose, in a way.
So you're only young as well, and I know starting school age 5
Yeah.
up to age 7, were you having problems at home or?
Well, my father was in the Navy, so he was never there. So it was just me, my mum, and 2 brothers. And yeah, I don't know, I think I needed a father figure because my mum was always just really busy. She liked to drink, as a lot of other families did back then. And I just felt kind of lost. I felt alone. Wasn't able to link in with anybody at school. And I think I probably found myself quite a depressed kid. I think I was quite smart. I was quite clever. The story goes, I taught myself how to read before I went to school by reading the Children's Encyclopedia Britannica. Although my parents never let me touch books in the house, so I used to have to sneak the books to read them by myself. And in school, I was always fascinated by all the individual relationships other people had, but I could never really link in. So, yeah, unfortunately, about 7 or 8 years old, I got so depressed as a child. I tried to hang myself, which is not a great thing.
Such a traumatic thing at such a young age. Can you talk me through that, Stuart?
Yeah, I don't really know what happened. I just think I was going to school every day and I just felt completely lost. I had nobody to talk to and I just felt really miserable. I felt I kept getting into trouble and I was always cast as a bad boy, the naughty boy. And just one day, I suppose you don't really know what you're doing at that age, but I just tied a bicycle lock around my neck and hung myself from the bunk beds in my bedroom at home. And then my mum found me and managed to undo the padlock, and she never really said anything about it. And then I think it was like I don't know how long later, but a psychologist came into the school. And I had to go and sit all these tests and did IQ tests and everything like that. I just remember that after all the tests were done, my mother was invited in and she sat there and the psychologist went, "Don't worry, you don't have to worry about him. He would just go straight to university." And with that, I was taken back to the classroom. My desk was moved away from everybody else. I was told to sit alone and the teacher came in with a big book. And it was David Attenborough's Life on Earth book that had just come out. She put that on the desk. She went, "You're so clever. Study that." And that was it. That's what I was left to study by myself in the class. And I think from then, my mind just wandered and I just lost interest in anything and anyone. And yeah, just became quite lost as a child, really.
Was there any drink or drugs at an early age?
Me? My parents always drank. There was always a lot of drink in the house. And they always had cigarettes because my dad was away all the time and there was a cupboard in the house just full of Benson and Hedges cigarettes. And an alcohol cupboard always full. And I found myself, there was a field at the bottom of my road with some woods. And I found myself like taking some whiskey and vodka and Bacardi and putting it in a bottle, nicking a packet of fags and going and sitting in the woods and smoking cigarettes and drinking.
What age are you at this time?
Well, it's shocking to say, about 8, 9, 10 years old. And that's what I used to do. I used to spend a lot of time just in the woods by myself, just drinking and smoking cigarettes.
I can relate to that. I was also a child addict, Stuart. But it's crazy because we don't know why we're doing it at that age and it can be an early childhood trauma.
Absolutely.
Or the way your mind is, fitting in and wondering why that is. Obviously, we don't know about the word autism back then.
Well, exactly. So I wasn't diagnosed, obviously, until a lot later in life, until my 30s. But I think the teachers all knew there was something going on. Like one day in class, the teachers asked me to go up to another classroom for a long stand. And I thought, oh, wow, this is amazing, because normally there's only the good kids that are allowed to get out of the class to go up and collect something, the trusted kids. So I get up to this other class and I go in and ask for a long stand. And they had obviously planned it, these teachers. They drew a cross on the floor. She went, "Stand there." So here's me, 8, 9 years old, having to stand in front of a class of my peers for the full lesson. And everybody just laughing at me, laughing at the stupid boy, the different boy, the idiot, or whatever they wanted to call me. So it wasn't just at home, it was also the teachers as well. that were bullying me.
I can relate to that as well, because I also never fitted in at school. Always the class clown, getting into trouble. But again, no knowing why I'm doing it. But moving on in the story, right? Moving into your teenage years. I know your dad, as you said, was in the Navy.
That's right.
And he took you on was it a tour?
Well, after a while, he then joined the Merchant Navy.
Right.
So he was on oil tankers and stuff, right? And so we never had a very good relationship. And I was like probably failing at school. So he thought, okay, when I'm 15, he took me on one of his oil tankers for 2 months. So I flew to like Houston and I joined the oil tanker there. Sailed down the Galveston River. This was amazing for a 15-year-old boy. And I just had the run of the ship. I could go anywhere I want. And we just went down and we went into the Caribbean. We went to, was it Aruba and Curacao? And then we pulled into a dock, Venezuela, Puerto La Cruz. And it was incredible. I had a couple of weird experiences there as well. I made friends with the third officer, a young Indian guy. And we decided to sneak ashore when we were in Puerto La Cruz one night. And that's,
There's a story behind that, Stewart boy, because I'm sure you're about to tell us now. It was a bit of an experience for you, something that stands out in your mind. Were you only 15?
I was 15 years old.
You talk me through it.
So I was getting to know this guy, this third officer on the ship. He was a young Indian guy. And we're talking about coming into port in Puerto La Cruz in Venezuela. And I don't know if it was his suggestion or my suggestion, but we decided to sneak off the ship in port and go and visit a brothel. So we came up with this huge plan that I would pretend to be fishing off the pier. And so I took my fishing rod and all my stuff down to go and sit at the pier about 10 o'clock at night. And he came off the ship and met me. We jumped in a taxi and ended up in this brothel in Venezuela somewhere. And me and him went downstairs. He obviously thought I was a lot older and more experienced. He was not at all. He was a young guy from a wee village somewhere in India. And that's where I lost my virginity to this Venezuelan prostitute. It was a terrible experience, and I ended up going back down to the bar to wait for him to finish what he was up to. Drank a few too many rum and cokes. I had a bit of paper that told me where the dock was, so stupidly I left the brothel by myself. I started walking down the streets of Puerto La Cruz to try and find my way back to this port. Very drunk. I remember coming around the corner and I saw what I thought were the police in uniform. I heard people arguing or something, so I thought maybe it was just the police trying to sort out an argument outside a pub. I went up and tapped one of these officers on the shoulder. He just swung round and pointed this huge assault rifle at me. And started shouting something at me, and I'm waving this wee bit of white paper, this wee Scottish guy from Glasgow, waving a bit of white paper saying, I'm just trying to find my boat, I'm just trying to find my boat. I was like, what's going on? And incredibly, just at that second, this third officer drives round the corner with the hooker still in the car, in a taxi, grabs me by the shoulder, pulls me into the taxi. I don't know what, it's one of these open side things, I can't really remember. I was very, very drunk. Pulled me in and we drove back to the port and I got back onto the ship safely. But the next morning at breakfast, don't know if my dad knew. He was a chief engineer. So we all sat with the captain and stuff at the top table for our breakfast and stuff. But he was going on about these dirty guys. These dirty guys went out to the prostitutes last night, these dirty guys. He never spoke directly to me about it, but I don't know if he ever knew I was actually one of the dirty guys who sneaked off the ship.
It's a mad story.
That's when I was 15.
So moving on in the story now,
Okay.
right?
Aye.
I know you were around about 16 when there was big changes in the family. I'm sure your dad got another job and you were moving to Hong Kong.
That's right. Well, see, I think this whole idea about taking me on the ship was to get me to join the Navy, which after my last fight at school in Newton Mearns, I did a runner into the town and joined the Navy. So at 16, I joined the Navy.
Right.
And I went down to HMS Raleigh. I spent about 6 months there. But whilst I was there, I get a message from my mum to say we're moving to Hong Kong because your dad's got a shore job there, an office job in Hong Kong. I'm like in the Navy, obviously not enjoying it, not my thing. And I decided to quit the Navy there and then. And in October that year, I flew out to Hong Kong. My parents had been living there for my wee brother already for about half a year. So I decided to fly out and join them.
So do you remember that time then when you arrived in Hong Kong? What was that experience like?
My God, that was amazing, mate. I mean, I was an outcast at school here in Glasgow. Not many friends at all. Hated life. Hated the dreary, drudgy, dark skies, the rain and the cold, and was miserable in Glasgow my whole life. Then I end up in this place, Hong Kong, with the nice cars, the heat. It was incredible. The first week I was in Hong Kong, I just walked around the city. I just walked around myself here, there, and everywhere. What an incredible place. What a happening, energetic, amazing place. And my wee brother was already in school there. So my parents managed to get me an appointment to see if they would let me join the school. I remember joining that school. We went for the interview. It's interesting because it's mentioned in the foreword of the book by Chris Force, who is like the house principal. And he's actually written in the foreword how I turned up at this interview, wee pale, skinny thing he didn't think much of. But he didn't really want to give me a position in the school, a place in the school. But they relented, and I got a place in this island school, this amazing school in mid-levels in Hong Kong.
What was that experience like getting your first day in school? Do you remember?
Oh, dude, right. So I get told to go into the principal's office like, I don't know, 8 o'clock in the morning. And they said, we've got a buddy for you to show you around. You got to remember, I'm a young guy, 16, from Glasgow. And we go into this school, and it's all these young, fit, tanned, healthy kids, happy kids. And I go up to the classroom, the first classroom, and this lassie just bounces out. Blonde hair, blue eyes, gorgeous. Most gorgeous girl I've probably ever seen in my life. And she says, hi, I'm Kylie. I'm going to be your buddy. I was in heaven. Australian lassie, absolutely stunning. And that was my first experience of school in Hong Kong. And I went into the classroom and everybody's really friendly. Everybody's happy to meet you. I don't know if you remember in Glasgow, if there was a new kid that came to the school, they always like stood in the corner. They were bullied until they made friends. Here, I was like, everybody was so pleased to see you. That first day, I was invited to one of the girls' birthday parties. I think it was Brooke. I don't know if Brooke will remember, but it was her birthday party. And it was a boat party where we all had to go in this big old Chinese junk full of beer. Parents were there, just full of beer, 16-year-olds sailing around Hong Kong Harbour for a birthday party. It was incredible.
It's such a crazy scenario when you think of it. As you said, coming from Glasgow and that environment, and then landing smack bang in the middle of Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And you're out in a boat party, you're meeting new people. When did it start to go wrong for you then, Stuart?
Well, there and then.
Was it the drugs?
Well, yeah. I mean, so my parents only had a 2-bedroom apartment, so I had to sleep on the couch every night. And my parents were pretty heavy into their drink. They would drink a bottle of Bacardi and a bottle of whiskey every night. So I couldn't get to my bed until they went to their bed, which was half 12 at night. So I decided just to go out and start hanging about the pubs. Wait until the pub closed, and then I would go get home. And so I was drinking a lot from like that October, November, December, January, February. But it was only drink. And then one day I missed my friend's birthday party, and my pal at a nightclub, she was really upset with me. You know, that age, you get really upset at these wee silly things. My pal took me up the back and said, here, try some of this. This'll cheer you up. And he got this wee packet out. There was this white powder on it. And he rolled up like a $10 note, made a line of this white powder, and he showed me what to do and sniffed this.
What was the white powder?
It's heroin. I had no idea. I'd never seen this before. I never knew what it was. I just thought it was a normal thing.
What did they call it? China White?
China White. Well, they didn't call it China White. They called it number 4. Or Sage Eye. as they call it in Chinese.
And
Number four,
that's the
Smack.
name of your book.
That's the name of the book. Smack. Pure. You know, you just felt euphoric afterwards. You felt loved and hugged and warm and cozy. All your cares disappeared instantly. And that was the first time I took it.
Were you hooked right away?
No, not at all. I didn't think about it again afterwards.
When did it start to escalate then?
Well, my mum and my parents decided to go away that summer. My mum took my wee brother back to Scotland for the summer holidays, and my dad went away to Korea for 2 months to work. So I had an empty for 2 months, and my parents gave me enough money for food to last for 2 months. So of course, the first night after I dropped my mum and wee brother off at the airport, I rushed back to the flat, filled the bath full of ice and beer, move all the furniture, and have the biggest party in Hong Kong you could possibly have. It was full chock-a-block with other kids, all these international kids. I can't remember how many people were there, but it was one of the best parties I'd ever held. And then this lassie came in, and she offered it again to me. I went, okay, I've had it before. It was all right, it was nice. And I took it, and we took it together all night long. Then in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, we were running out, and then we had to go somewhere else to find more, and days, hours and days became weeks. I was just doing it every single day. And I think that second time I took it, that was me addicted.
You were hooked in? Were you still in school at that time?
No, I'd already left school by that time.
Right, so were your parents back?
So my parents came back afterwards, and there was a big argument. And I remember so I'd never really stood up to my dad before, because he was a big Navy guy. Guy was huge, massive. Rugby player, muscles. I remember a photograph of him once holding a shark like that. It was a big lad. And there was this huge argument in the house after they'd come back about me, and he made a move towards my mum. And this was the first time I stood up and went toe-to-toe with my father. I said, "You're not going to touch her." And we stood there staring at each other. I am shitting myself. I thought I was about to die. I thought he was going to crush me. Absolutely thought he was going to crush me. This felt like I went on for half an hour. It's probably only seconds or a minute max. Toe-to-toe, staring at each other. Silence. And then he slowly looked down, turned around, walked to his room, shut the door. That was the moment things really changed. Because the next day he got up, came into the room, he said, "Get out this house." He threw me out.
Where did you go?
I remember walking about for hours, wondering where I am going to go. Obviously I had heroin on me, so you always kept a bit of heroin for the morning. You got to have your smack first thing in the morning along with your breakfast. And then, you'd go out that day to try and find more. I ended up that night going down to Hong Kong Harbour. There was a pier called Blake Pier that went out into Hong Kong Harbour. There was a restaurant at the end, and there was a few homeless people sleeping there. And that's where I went. I slept in this pier, Blake Pier. I ended up sleeping in there for months. So that became my new home.
That's crazy. Do you see when you were sleeping there and you were getting up, how were you scoring the heroin then? Were you still getting it every day?
So you have to, then for me it was like every 3 or 4 hours before you start, getting the shakes, getting the hunger. You want to before, that's what, withdrawals. And so you would always make sure you've got your few lines for the morning. So I'd get up in the morning, I would take my, a line straight away. Then I would head up to, there was these bathrooms. It was near a place called the Star Ferry Terminal, where the ferry that goes from Hong Kong Island to Tsim Sha Tsui, the mainland. So there was a row of bathrooms there, and I would go in, and I would have a morning shower with a mug over the sink, like a complete homeless person, which I was. I would occasionally meet my wee brother there, because he would come there to get the bus to school. So I'd meet him there occasionally, and so I'd go and get my shower and stuff, and then you've got to go out and hustle. I still had some money left from the Navy, Because when you're in the Navy, you keep getting some money because you have holiday pay and stuff. So that was still coming through drips and drabs. So I still had a wee bit of money. And then I would have a wee job because I'd had a job in an estate agents in Hong Kong for a wee while. Then I had a job for a month at this place. And then there was this thing called the brain drain going on at Hong Kong at the time because they were getting prepared for Hong Kong to be handed over to China. So loads of people were leaving. So on Saturday, you could get the morning, the job section in the newspaper, and there was hundreds of jobs. You'd phone up, British person, you can get a job like that. It would last for a month or two, get a bit of money, and then they would sack you because you never turned up, and then you can get another job.
So were you still working while you were sleeping rough at the harbour? A
couple of times, yeah.
And you were doing heroin every day, obviously?
Every single day. I actually ended up working for a stockbroker at one point for 2 months. I was still sleeping at the harbour. And you'd go in. I'd go in at midnight to work, supposedly, and just be taking heroin in the toilets.
So what about the people that you started to befriend then? Did you have like a circle that were doing drugs, partying?
Aye, so we used to go to this pub all the time called Thingamies, right? Hence a t-shirt. And this is where all the local expat kids used to go to. And that's where I went to near enough every night of the week. If my parents needed to find me, they would phone the pub at 16 and 17. And this is the group of people I started hanging about with. A lot of expat kids. But there was one guy, a guy called Lennon, who was a local Chinese boy. I remember my pal Stewart Tate telling me, and Stuart's all right with me saying this, he came up to me, he says, keep away from these guys. Keep away from these triads. They are dangerous. I was like, think you know best. Nah, this guy's just cool. So I befriended this guy called Lennon. And so when things fell apart for me, Lennon came back into my life. He came up to me once in the pub and he went, "Oh, you start taking bucka now." Bucka is the Cantonese term for heroin. You start taking bucka now. I went, aye. He says, come with me. So outside the pub, there's a wee park. In the city centre, they've got these wee parks you can go to. And that's where people would take their heroin. So we went up there, we made a couple of lines together. He said, how much you pay? I said, I paid $200, which is 20 quid for a gram. He said, he laughed at me. He says, next time you pay 100. He introduced me to where I could start buying it for $100, a tenner, a gram of pure smack. As much as I wanted. It's so cheap. But from that point onwards, he started supplying me. Anytime I saw him, he was like, come on, come on, come on. And we started taking heroin a lot together, me and him at the park. And we started hanging out a lot. We went on a boat trip together. I meet some of his friends. And then one day I'm hanging out with him. He said, come on, we've got to go somewhere. And I went off with him. And we walked to like I still mix my English and Chinese up, okay? A little bit. It's called so it was a tea shop. So you'd go and get some tea or rice or something to eat and drink. We walk in. I go to a table to sit down. He walks straight up to where the cash till is, brings out a bat, starts smashing the place up and whacking the manager, screaming at him, shouting at him, puts the bat away. We walk out. I'm like, what the fuck's just happened to you?
A bag full of cash?
No. It was a warning.
Right.
It wasn't robbing the guy. The guy owed him money. This was a warning. You don't pay the money, we're going to come and smash up your shop every week until you give me the money. They're all gamblers. So people would borrow money to go gambling. Then that's when I realised Lennon is a triad. So quite a few of these things happened. Once we were going to a party, I invited him to go to a party with some of my pals in a place called Port Fulham. It's an area just outside of Hong Kong, just to the west on the island. So we jump in the taxi. I'm not questioning any of this, mate. I'm a smackhead by now. I'm just going off the floor, right? I'm just a heroin addict who lives rough. And we get to Lennon is telling the guy where to park. And he parks this. I'm like, but we're not here. But I'm learning to keep my mouth shut. So he gets the guy to park somewhere else. And he brings out a baton. And he robs the taxi driver. And we get out of the taxi, we just walk away. As cool as you like. As calm as you like. And no words are shared. I'm getting to learn that this thing that the Chinese have got, it's called losing face. If you question something, they're losing face. And they can't lose face. They seem to lose face, they've got to get it back. And so you don't ask any questions. You don't show any mistrust. You have to just trust in what they say and do. And but he just keeps giving me heroin, and the only thing I want when you're a junkie, that's all you want. You just want smack. He's just feed me smack all the time.
I know you told me before the serious crime started to come, yourself and Lennon. Where was Lennon from again?
Hong Kong.
He was from Hong Kong. So yourself and Lennon, I'm sure you told me you went away and you started shooting guns and stuff like that. That's a story.
So I wouldn't see him for like days at a time sometimes. And then all of a sudden he would just turn up. He would just turn up and go, let's go. That was it. All right, let's go. You give it and then have some heroin. Let's go. So we go down to the ferry terminal and there's islands next to Hong Kong called Lantau, which is bigger than Hong Kong. It's a huge island. And a lot of it is still it's mountainous and it's got forests and stuff and you can go for lovely nature walks. And now it's a lot more built up. But we go in the Lantau ferry and he's got this big, huge duffel bag with him. No, I'm not asking any questions. And we head over to Lantau and we climb up one of the hills. It's quite high. And he puts the bag down, unzips it. And it's full of guns. Now, I'd been in the Navy for a while, so I knew what guns were. We had Sterling submachine guns in the Navy, and that's what we used to train with. But he opens this bag. And this isn't like, these are proper like gangster wee guns. I'm looking at it. At first I'm thinking these are toy guns. Right? And he's pulling them out. I'm like going, I didn't really know what they were. It's only afterwards I can know what they are.
What type of guns were there?
First one he brings out it's like an Uzi. And then he brings out an AK-47. He brings out this, I don't know, a lot of Chinese-made ones. I don't really know what they were. And then he brought out, okay, the one that caught my eye, the one that I liked, was a revolver. It's this beautiful silver revolver. And I remember picking it up and going, I don't know, you just felt powerful when you're holding it. Because I'm just thinking they're not real at this point as well. And I'm looking at, I don't know why, it's all clanking and clinking and stuff, right? And I pull it out and this beautiful, and it ends up being like a Colt 45. And I know it's a single action army revolver. The guy says it along the barrel. I'm like holding this thing. And then all of a sudden, he's like, I'm like, what the fuck? He's just fired the AK-47, just a single round. And he's just sitting there. He's aiming towards a rock. He's just got this, you can change the settings on it. He went, give it to me. And we spent the whole day shooting guns. Sitting at the top of a mountain in Lantau, in Hong Kong, shooting guns at a rock.
Taking heroin and shooting guns?
Taking heroin. If at any point in this conversation I'm not saying we're taking heroin, you have to realise we were taking heroin. It was constant. When you're a smackhead like that, it's constant. A line. It's like if you smoke cigarettes. We smoke cigarettes as well. You just absentmindedly go for a cigarette. You absentmindedly just go for heroin if you've got it.
How many guns did you shoot that day, roughly?
It was about 7.
What was your favourite gun?
The Colt 45. I don't know. It was just something about...
Was it noisy?
I thought the Colt fucking noisy. And I had a good kick on it as well. But it was heavy, but it was balanced. And it was just felt like craftsmanship as well. I just liked it. It could go in your pocket. It could go in your waistband. The other guns, the Uzi I didn't like because that's just all over the place. You couldn't hit I couldn't hit you from here with an Uzi, right?
I hope not.
That's why these guys, always put it on fully automatic and they spray and they just spray it everywhere because it's got no accuracy with it whatsoever.
What age are you at this point, Stuart?
I'm 17.
17-year-old.
17.
Crazy. So you go back into Hong Kong.
So I've got to go back a little bit, right, when I'm 12 years old and I'm really messed up in the head. And this is back in the day before computers. And I remember going up to the library at Mearns Cross in Newton Mearns to go to the psychology section to try and figure out what my problem is. And I'm sitting there for days going through all these psychology books, textbooks, and I come across these scoring systems for different psychological issues. And at 12 years old, I scored myself as either psychopath or sociopath. I believed I was one of them. And then I was reading more and more and more. I thought, okay, it sounds a bit crazy, but I thought I was either going to be dead by the time I got to 18, I was going to be a serial killer by the time I got to 18, or I was going to be in prison by the time I got to 18, because that's what it says happens between the ages of 18 and 25. If you're a psychopath, this is what's going to happen to you. So that's what I thought was going to happen to me. And at that point, when I'm 17, I'm with Lennon and I'm taking the drugs, I just see myself going towards this hole. I didn't think I was ever going to be a serial killer, really. Like, I wouldn't really hurt a fly. I'm not that kind of person. I would defend myself, etc., right? But I wouldn't shoot somebody or anything like that. But I saw myself going towards that hole. I thought I was going to be dead by the time I got to 18. I think I felt a calmness with that.
Such a mad story because you're still only a teenager.
Yeah.
So see when you go back to Hong Kong then, after being on the island,
Yep.
shooting the guns,
Yep.
I know it starts to get really serious, more chaotic.
Yep.
The serious crime then comes.
The serious crime then comes.
Can you speak me through that?
Okay, I'm going to be very careful with some of these things because other people are involved and there's a statute of limitations in some of these cases. And obviously later on we're going to find out what happened to me. But I don't know exactly what all my charges were because I never had a lawyer. So I don't know what's been dealt with and what's not been dealt with. So I have to be a wee bit careful here. Let's just say there were a couple of gold shops were robbed in central Hong Kong. I'm not going to say when and what date.
That's fine, you don't need to mention dates, you don't need to mention names.
Yes.
But you can also talk about the robberies in detail.
Okay.
So
what used to happen at that time in Hong Kong, let me tell you, there was a lot of Chinese mainlanders would come over to Hong Kong with lots of weapons. And what they would do in central Hong Kong, where all the gold shops were, they would rob them. And they would come in really clinically. So maybe there was 5 or 6 of them. And every gold shop in Hong Kong at that time had a Sikh with a pump-action shotgun on a stool outside. So they would have to take them out first. So somebody would come and hit the guy or restrain him. The people would run in. And it was a smash and grab. It was your typical scrap. All these gold shops had all these glass counters. So 2 guys would come in each side. One guy would come in, shout and scream, you got to stop, you got to get down, don't move, etc. Other guys would come in, smash the counters, and other guys would have bags ready, grab, run out onto the street, disperse. You have to realise that when you run out in the street in Hong Kong, there's thousands of people everywhere. You can disperse so quickly, that alley, that street, that lane. There's so many public transport points as well. The one underground station will have 10 entrances. And back then there was no cameras anywhere. If there were cameras, the cameras were shit. So this thing was happening regularly.
I know you were involved in quite a few of them, but can you talk me through the very first one then, to start off with? Your first experience, first robbery.
The first experience I had was I got invited by Lennon to a flat. No, okay. This is after we smoked opium together. So he took me to the walled city in Hong Kong. We smoked opium together, and then he took me to this flat, and it's called Chun Mun. And back then, Chun Mun was quite far out from Hong Kong. It was where all the smugglers and everybody used to hang out. It's a right triad infiltrated area. It was right near the border of China. So he took me to this flat there, and there was like, the triads are mad. On every street corner there'll be triads. And you'll be able to tell they're triads because they wear certain clothes, they've got a comb in their hair, they wear certain socks, they do certain things like this. And when you're walking behind this guy, you're just seeing all these nods and winks and nods and winks and nods and winks. So you can go up different areas. And because I'm a foreigner as well, you have to be careful about taking me. And we will go to this apartment. We go up the stairs to this apartment. These guys aren't too happy that I'm there. There's about 10 of them in the apartment. And Lennon takes me aside into the kitchen and says, we've got to go into Central today, and this is what we're going to do, and this is what you're going to do. He gave me instructions what to do.
What was your objectives?
My objectives was just make sure everybody was shut up and keep quiet.
Do you have a gun?
Yep.
What kind of gun do you have?
The same one.
Right. Can you talk me through that day then?
The 45. Okay,
Be careful.
I haven't really spoken very much about this. It's not even in the book because I don't want to like glorify crime and stuff, because people got frightened when we did this. Even though it was only 20 seconds, you're scaring the shit out of people. And the whole idea is to scare the shit out of people so nobody have time to react. You want to control that place as soon as you get in there.
How many was there, Ease?
6.
6. 6-man operation. So the plan is to take out the guard?
I'm not told anything else, mate. I'm told what I'm supposed to do, and that's it.
Right.
It's not they're all speaking Cantonese. Lennon's telling me what to do. And I go in, I've got to shout, control, and then out. And then I haven't to follow anybody. Nobody follows each other. You've got to make your own way back to Toonman afterwards.
And everybody rendezvous at the flat?
Well, no, because there was no goodies taken back to the house. The goodies are fenced almost immediately. There's somebody in Moncock. There's somebody, well, I've said it now. There's somebody in Moncock that they'll take all the stuff to, and that guy, he'll be the fence and he'll get rid of it all. I'd go back to the flat and take some smack. Then it would just give me some smack.
So you weren't even getting cash for it? You were just...
I didn't even ask for cash for it. I was just stupid. I was like, this was my new family. And you don't think about it. The thing was, I'm sleeping on a pier in the middle of Hong Kong. My parents know where I am. Everybody from school knows where I am. All the teachers, everybody knows where I am. The whole society knows where I am. Nobody's there. No parent, no teacher, no social work. Nobody comes down and says, Stewart, we're going to help you. We need to help you. I'm just waiting to die.
It's crazy.
I'm waiting to die. That's the honest truth. I was waiting to die. I knew I was circling the drain.
So you're still only 17 at this point?
Yeah.
How many robberies?
I'm not going to tell you how many robberies we were involved in.
Right.
I also as well, I did a taxi robbery by myself once.
Was that the first robbery you'd done on your own?
By myself, yeah. I only ever done that by myself.
Can you talk me through that?
Well, I went down to Star Ferry, hailed a taxi. I had no money for drugs. I hadn't seen Lennon in ages. I hailed a taxi, took him up to the Peak. It used to be a burnt out house we always used to party in, up at the Peak in Hong Kong. Took him up there. I held a knife to him. I cut his radio. I took his money. And I legged it. I shit myself. I wasn't that brave. And I legged it to the Peak tram. Legged it. I mean, all these tourists must have gone, what the hell's going on with this guy? I'm sweating, I'm panicking. And I get on the Peak tram and all the tourists are there. And I'm like, shitting myself. Go down the Peak tram. And then I run. I'm like thinking, where am I going to go? I've got to get as far away from the crime as possible. And I ended up going to this place called the Landmark Centre, which was a shopping centre in central Hong Kong. And I went to one of the fire exits, and that's where I counted my loot. I didn't even get that much.
So, I mean, it's
just crazy, and that in itself is worth 10 plus years in prison.
And how much did you get?
Money-wise?
Money-wise?
I might have got not enough to buy a gram of heroin on Hong Kong Island, I would have had to go to the mainland to buy it.
It's fucking, it just shows you
Stupid.
how the mind's working then. You're not giving a fuck about robbing people. You're just wanting to get the drugs in because your mind's so fucked, innit?
I remember begging on the street. I was begging as well, mate. This is how crap it was. I remember begging down in Wan Chai one night, and a guy walked past. I saw in his top pocket he had $10, a green note. I tried to mug him for $10 when a gram of heroin was 200. And then I was begging in a place called Nathan Road at Christmas time. I made myself all dirty and stuff, wore dirty clothes. I used to sit at the corner of the traffic lights with a wee sign, my parents have died in a car crash, I want to try and get enough money to get a ticket back to Scotland, blah, 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 you know, and all that. Oh, bullshit.
Were you still sleeping at the harbour all this time?
Yeah.
How long were you there for?
About 6 months.
6 months. I know you told me a story before we dive right into more chaos.
All right, okay.
Because I know it gets...
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet, Stuart. I know it gets more interesting. But you also told me you got shot as well, and it was an accident.
Okay, that was an accident. They were mucking about. I don't want to talk about that because, but that was an accident. That had nothing to do with crime or anything like that. That was just a fuck about.
Just a fuck about. Yep. So we'll skip by that then.
We'll skip by that.
So you're then sleeping at the harbour.
I was there for about 6 months. I get a few times, you know, I'd be able to kip at somebody's house, or some people would come and visit Hong Kong. They would have hotels, and I could sleep at a hotel with them sometimes. So it's not every night, but it's most nights I'm sleeping at the harbour.
It's fucking crazy. So I know you were saying there you were holding the sign up, right? Parents have died in a car crash, need money to get home.
Yeah.
It ended up a good Samaritan and his family approached you and offered to buy you a ticket home. Is that correct?
I was mad. That's about the 2nd or 3rd of January, 1991. I'm down at the Star Ferry. I can see them looking at me. Because, you know, when I was on edge anyway, because obviously a lot of crimes had been committed. So I was on edge. So you're always aware of who's around you and what's going on. I know it's this family. And they came up to me. They went, is this true? If we bought you a ticket, would you go home? I'm thinking, my 18th birthday's coming up. I'm dying, mate. I am lost all my friends, lost everything. I'm dying. I'm taking a lot of heroin at this point. I'm doing stuff that could kill me at any point. And they said, are you for real? If we bought you a plane ticket, would you go? I went, aye. He said, okay, well, if you're here tonight at 5 o'clock or something, we'll see you then. So they came back with it. They bought me a ticket to Heathrow.
I know at that point was it a girlfriend or a female friend that had been?
Oh no, she wasn't a girlfriend. No, it was a friend.
A friend.
A friend. Yes.
So they'd bought you the ticket, but
so
you were still mixed up with the triads.
Oh yeah. So they bought me the ticket, and I was like, okay, if I'm going to be flying back to London, I need a lot of heroin to go in my pocket for the flight. You know, because if I'm going to be going to London, I need to have smack in my pocket to survive. So I found Lennon. I keep trying to say it. I keep forgetting to make sure I use the correct name. Lennon. Went to find Lennon, and I told him what was happening. He says, okay, you want to take something from me. So I got 5 grams of heroin for myself and a few packets in a bag for him.
You going to tell me how much?
5 kilos.
5 kilos of heroin?
Yep.
And you were to smuggle this back to Britain?
Yep.
What happened?
So because I'm going to leave Hong Kong, I'm like, I'm leaving. There was only one person I called. I'm not going to say her name just now. And because I just got back in touch with her a couple of days ago. And we were having a chat. So I agreed to meet with her on this street called Pedder Street. It's in central Hong Kong. It's where we always used to meet before we went out clubbing. It was where all the teenagers used to meet before they got in the underground to go to the nightclubs and stuff. So we agreed to meet there. At the same time, I'm with Lennon because we've got to go straight to the airport after this. So I'm there with Lennon. He's just in the wee alleyway there. And she comes up. My dearest friend. We really cared a lot for each other. She was so kind to me.
You get the 5 kilo on you?
No, he's got it. He's holding
Lennon's
it back.
got it.
He's got it. He's got it. I'm just standing there. I've got my 5 grams in my pocket. I've got my passport, ticket, 5 grams. No, I didn't have the ticket. He had the ticket. So I have my passport, 5 grams, and that was it. And so she turns up, hugging, caring. She took a ring off her finger. It was a smiley face ring. And she was just putting it on my finger, then bang! Doof! Bang, straight against the wall. So it was an explosion. Sorry, but it was an explosion of just these guys were on top of me. I just remember lashing out and fighting and screaming and it was just chaos and mayhem straight away. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? I had no idea what was happening. First of all, I actually thought it was a rival gang because we'd had a couple of gang fights. Me and Lennon went with choppers and all that kind of stuff. Had a couple of gang fights. So I thought it was a rival gang jumping me. Because all these guys were just in normal clothing. It's like 5 or 6 of them, I can't remember. And at one point, I just remember getting punched and falling backwards and jumping up to find a gun sticking in my face. And it's like that moment, I thought, this is it. And then the badge came up. Police, don't fucking move. Or don't move. I can't remember exactly. It's 30 years ago. Gun in the face. Badge in my face. Huckled. Back of a van. Van door sliding closed. Feet, feet, fists, everything. Stay down, 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 stay down. Do, you motherfucker, we be looking for you. All this kind of shit.
Holy fuck. But why were they looking for you?
Because of all these robberies. They all knew it was me.
You must have stood out like a sore thumb.
I must have done.
Fucking Hong Kong, Stuart.
I must have fucking done, mate.
So you're only 17 still at this point?
Yeah, so they take me up to Central Police Station. One thing Lennon always told me, police triad, judge triad, everybody triad. Keep mouth. Keep mouth. Because in Cantonese it's sao soi. Keep water. No talk. Sao soi. Keep mouth. Don't say anything. So I'm in this station. And they're asking me questions. I'm just sitting there. Nothing. I'm saying nothing. About 4 hours into it, 5 hours into it, the door opens and in come my parents. Because they had my ID card. We all carry a Hong Kong ID card. I've still got it. I've got it in my pocket. So from their Hong Kong ID card, they could track down my parents.
Can you show us it? You've kept it all that time?
Aye.
That's fucking crazy, Stuart.
You never seen it?
I've never seen it. You've never showed me.
Never. Sorry, mate. Apologies.
So you're in
Not keeping secrets.
You're in the police cell. Let's see it. You're in the police cell. Look at you.
That's me, eh? Sweetheart. Mess, eh? I'm a junkie there.
That's fucking crazy. So you're in there. They've got obviously your ID card.
I cut up a lot of smack, by the way. See what that you're holding? I cut up a lot of smack back in the day.
So that's got some evidence on
That's
there.
got a lot of evidence. You probably smell it.
Hong Kong identity card.
Aye.
Fucking hell, Stuart boy. Here, you can have that back.
Thank you very much.
It's got my fingerprints on it now.
Aye, actually, I'm done.
I don't
It's actually a
plan-
bit of smack there, I think. Still stuck in it.
I don't plan on going to Hong Kong anytime soon, so we'll be
We'll
all
let
right.
you in after that.
Not after that. So
Yeah.
you're in the police station.
Yeah.
Your parents arrive.
Aye.
What happened?
So that's when they bring out, because they couldn't, I think the law was they couldn't interview you, although downstairs before they took me up to this other place, they did the good cop, bad cop. I got a bit of a beating. Anyway, I'm in this other room and they can't really do the charging or anything without another adult there or something because I was a juvenile. I
Still
was
17.
I was still a baby, sweet and innocent. So they couldn't interview me properly without an adult there. So that's when all the charges came out. And by this time, remember what I said about the heroin? I had to take every 3 hours before the pains came in. I was in withdrawals by this time. I was in a pure mess. I was aching. I was starting to get uncomfortable. I had the hunger. I was desperate for a bag of smack. Absolute. And so they were just doing all these charges. I can't remember a thing. I remember having charge sheets. It's just all in Cantonese, all Chinese. I had no fucking idea what was going on. Absolute. Sign this. I just signed it. Sign this. Sign it. Sign this. Sign it. Thinking my parents might be there to protect me. But they were just, sign it. Just sign it. Just sign it. We get a lawyer, guys. Think about what you're doing. So I just signed everything. Signed. I'd like all these, they put all the charges on you. Everything they've got, from the smallest thing to the biggest thing. So I didn't get sentenced for everything because they drop a lot of things after a while. They just do you for the main things. But I didn't know what any of those charges were.
Everything's in
I'll
Chinese.
tell you to this day, I don't know what I got sentenced for. It's armed robbery. Don't know which ones. I've got 2 armed robberies. And I can't tell you to this day which armed robberies I got done for. So I have to be a wee bit cagey. I've got no idea which
Crazy
ones.
bastard.
I've got done for 2 armed robberies and I don't know which ones they were.
So see, you were in the police station, obviously your parents left.
Aye.
How long were you held in the station for before you were took to a main prison?
So they took me down to the cells that night, so in the police station, and they were the worst cells you've ever been in your life. And of course you're withdrawn. The next day I go up to magistrate's court, get remanded, and that night I get taken in the bus up to the maximum security prison.
Do you remember the name of that prison?
Oh yes, Pickhook.
Pickhook.
Yeah.
So take me back to that day then. So you're driving up on,
So
on the bus.
I'm in the back of the bus. Oh, we're all, we've got like ankle bracelets on. We've got, wrist bracelets on. You're shackled to the guy next to you. And it's January. Freezing frigging cold. And I'm withdrawn badly. And just getting huckled. And then you get, the the old prison doors, you see open up and you go into the Sally Port and they close behind you. And then the main prison gates, but it's dark at this time. And I thought it was quite misty or foggy. So it was all really, really creepy, like Count Dracula's castle. You're going into like Frankenstein. Really creepy with just the lights and the fog. And you can just see the turrets, the guard turrets everywhere, and there's guns everywhere. You're taken in there and you're taken off the bus, and people are getting jabbed by butts and punched. And then I see this guard come up to me. Who are you? I can help you. So he takes me in, we do all the strip searching and all the probing. It's humiliating. They strip you. It's terrible. It's really bad. And then you have to choose a uniform, and these uniforms come from a bucket. And you're naked most of the time, and then they finally dress you in this stinking, disgusting, thin, rotten clothing with wee sandals. I know I commit crime, so I know I deserve what I got, but it's really horrible. And you're withdrawn from drugs, and you just feel so sick. And then you're marched up to this prison hall, and man, that was rough.
So your first day in there, correct me if I'm wrong, was your 18th birthday?
Yeah, so the next morning you wake up and I decided I better tell them I'm pretty sick. So I got admitted to the hospital for withdrawal symptoms because I was a heroin addict, and that was my 18th birthday. I woke up in prison on my 18th birthday. Happy birthday.
It's fucking crazy, Stuart.
The birthday before that, I was shagging the waitress from the nightclub we used to go to.
That's what I'm saying, such a different story then,
You know what I mean?
It shows you how quick things can change.
Just absolutely, so quickly.
Especially when you're living that life of chaos, mixed up with triads, guns, robberies.
Absolute chaos, mate.
And now you land yourself in a notorious China prison, right?
Yeah.
A notorious Chinese prison.
Yeah, it was rough, very rough, that
so
place.
your first experience there, obviously you're in the hospital.
Aye.
How long you in there for?
I'm in there for 2 weeks. They don't give you any treatment for your heroin withdrawal. You're just in there because you're really sick.
So cold turkey?
Cold turkey. And you're cold turkeying off the strongest smack you can get. It's dangerous. People die from that. It's a serious, serious thing because the amount I was taking was serious. And so there was people coming in and out there. People were dying of different things. It was pretty rough.
So see, when you get out of the hospital and you're moved back onto the wing,
Eventually, so when I'm in hospital, my parents did visit me in the prison to tell me they were leaving Hong Kong. So 2 or 3 days while I was in prison, my parents told me they were leaving Hong Kong. So they went back to Scotland. So after the 2 weeks in the hospital, I got released back into the general population on remand. So I was wearing blue. And basically on remand, you just sit in this hall all day long and do nothing.
what about yourself? Were you in there yourself? Are you mixed up?
So yeah, so you're in this hall, is like hundreds of Chinese. They're all Chinese, hundreds of them, and they're all staring at you, the foreigner. And I didn't speak Chinese. I mean, a few words I could swear. We could all swear in Chinese when you're there. But I didn't know what anything anybody was saying to me. And at the same time, the police are coming up to interview me and stuff. Had to go and do a lineup. So they had me with all these really pretty foreign guys. And there was me really all crouched over. And the people who did the lineup went, "It's him." It was obviously me. And so it was really crap. And I didn't know what was happening because nobody was telling me what was happening. I didn't have a lawyer. I had no idea what the process was. I thought, I'm in there forever. I had no idea what was going on. I was really ill. And they put me on this foreign diet, which is bread and cheese and some meat and potatoes at night time. So you're starving as well. You've had to give up not just drugs, you're giving up fags, you're giving up juice, you're giving up sweeties and chocolates, you're giving up absolutely everything. It's cold, it's miserable, it's horrible.
What's the conditions like?
It's dreadful. Absolutely horrendous conditions. It was just a concrete box you're in. I was in a single cell because I was a risk. They couldn't put me in with a Chinese person. So I was in a single cell.
You classed as Cat A at that point?
No, I'm not
Because you're
sentenced.
still on remand?
I'm remanded.
So you're still on remand, right? What were the other prisoners like then, that environment and that?
I was put in a table by myself and kept away from everybody. Apart from when there was occasionally we were on tables together, but they tried to keep me away from everybody as much as possible. In fact, the second day was my big checkup from the neck up, to make me realise where I was. I'm sitting there, I don't know what it was, or maybe it must have been at breakfast or lunch. It must have been at breakfast time. We're just sitting there. Then all of a sudden, chaos comes from the right of me. 2 guys had jumped on the guy next to me. And I'd held his head down on the table and were stabbing him in the back of the neck with sharpened chopsticks. So they sharpened the chopsticks against their prison wall, their cell wall, and they stabbed this guy.
To death?
Well, they don't tell you. But I tell you what, we don't all have that much blood to give away for free. He bled out, and it was horrendous. I don't know. No, you just don't know if he died or not. But they were just stabbing him and stabbing him. It was polished metal tables, and it was just covered in blood.
In front of you?
Right in front of me. About maybe twice as far away as you are.
But you're just sitting there, you don't know what
I'm
to
just
do.
like, and then the alarm goes off, and we're told to get down. And so the rule is when the alarm goes off, you've got to put your head down on the table. You can't move, you can't look. And then the guards will tell you to get out, and then we're just all taken out.
Did the guards come in with the guns or anything?
No, there's no guns in the prison. There's guns in the turrets. So there's maximum security. There's guns surrounding the prison, but there's no guns inside the prison. But batons and armoury.
So a lot of corruption, obviously. Terrible treatment towards the prisoners.
Oh, very bad.
How long were you on remand for before you got sentenced?
Well, I just pled guilty to everything. I just pled guilty. I didn't have a lawyer, so it was only on my sentencing day that they had to give me a lawyer, because you have to do it if you're getting sentenced. And he ended up being the next pupil of Island School. So he called Mr. Force, my teacher. He said, "Mr. Force, we've got one of your boys here who's getting sentenced, and nobody's here." So Mr. Force turned up at my sentencing, and
do you remember that day when you went up to court?
aye.
Can you talk me through that?
So I didn't know what was happening.
You're still only 18 at this point?
Yeah, I didn't know what was happening. So it was only a few months after I'd gone in. It was really quick. They sentenced me really quickly. It was about 4 months. I was on remand for 3 or 4 months. I got sentenced.
See when you were up in the court,
Aye.
Obviously, everybody's speaking Chinese. You've not got a fucking clue
No idea.
what anybody's saying.
No idea.
So what happened?
I got 6 years. And that was it. Sent in.
Sent down for 6 years.
But I didn't realise it was 3 years each. So I got tried as a juvenile. It wasn't a trial. It was just sentencing. And I got 3 years for each armed robbery. I thought it was 6 years I was going to have to do. I actually thought I was told I was going to get 14 years. That's what I thought I was getting, 14 years. But because I was under 18, when they arrested me, not when they sentence you, but when we get arrested, I was arrested before my 18th birthday. So I was sentenced as a juvenile. So I ended up, so it's 3 years, and I should have only served 2 years. But I ended up.
So you got sentenced to 6 though?
Yeah.
So when you were sentenced and you were taken down,
How's it?
are you moved to
Nope.
the other part of the prison?
Yes, so you go into a different part and you wear the different uniform. You wear the brown uniform instead of the blue uniform. So you're now a prisoner.
What was that experience like? Were you put in with heavy duty people?
Heavy duty people. They put me in with the cat A's.
And what type of people were there?
The cat A's, the first person I walked into the room, the only English he knew was, I'm a double murderer. I'm a double murderer. That's how I got welcomed into being a prisoner. Not, hi, how are you doing? So I'm in the room about the size of this every day with 20 of them. Double murderers, rapists, serial killers, arsonists, assassins, guys that killed their whole families, the worst armed robbers, 20 of them. And some quite nice little murderers as well who'd murdered somebody by accident. One of my best pals was Steve, and he had got in a fight at school and hit somebody he picked up a bit of wood and hit him in the head and killed a guy by accident, but he was doing life as well. So I was in with all the lifers because I was an escape risk, you see, because I was foreign.
Were you still in a single cell there?
I was still in a single cell. In that prison, the maximum security place, I was in a single cell throughout my whole sentence in that place.
Such a fucking crazy environment to be surrounded by at such a young age.
They were stealing my food quite a lot at the time as well. So I was onto rations, bare rations of food. And I have to say I lost my mind. I was in so many fights. They broke my leg at one point. I ended up in the hospital for 4 months in a dungeon hospital where people were laying in their beds dead. There was a guy lying on the ground. He was paralysed. He couldn't move. There was a guy. Have you ever seen elephantitis of the testicles?
Don't think so.
I have. Used to stand at the bars, hanging out the bottom of his shorts all day long. And so this was a place people used to die in their hospital beds and they would just leave them for like 4 hours until they could be bothered to take the bodies away.
And you're lying next to these people?
I'm there because they had broken... So it wasn't a broken leg. I had dislocated my knee. They had... And so I was in the hospital. And so you're supposed to have an operation, but you are put to the back of the queue every time a member of the public needs an operation. So I got my pre-op about 3 or 4 times before I finally got my operation. So I had to lie in bed in this, and this really was a dungeon. This was the basement of like a normal outside hospital, but this is where all the prisoners were, and it really was a dungeon. That's where people were dying of AIDS. People were dying of all sorts of things. That's where people went to die. And this guy had cut his own throat, as you do. And that was not very nice. He kept picking it, trying to kill himself again. There was all the weary wounded from the Chinese prison system were in this hospital cell with me. And that was dark, it was dingy, it was one of those dripping water kind of scenarios. And I'm lying in bed and I can't move because my leg's pretty screwed up. But nobody attacked me in there. That was good. I was safe in there because they were all far too ill and worried about themselves. But this guy, they did literally bring in, he had been paralysed in the fight. They brought him in and just put him on the floor. And that's where he stayed.
He was paralysed?
Right? Could he move?
What happened to him? Do you know?
No idea. No idea.
It's fucking crazy, Stuart. So, moving on in the story then,
yes.
right? I know, how long did you spend in that prison
Maximum
then?
security was a year and a half.
A year and a half.
A year and a half, but then things were getting so out of control. And in fact, what ended up happening is because I was getting into... I went a wee bit psychotic and I erupted against a lot of lifers one day. I started fighting them all. And eventually what they did, they put me into the Cat A+. You know, the prison inside the prison, they call it. So the death sentence is obviously still given there, but it's always usually commuted to life imprisonment. So they still had the death chamber. So I was put into the Cat A+, where all the death sentence guys were.
I'm sure the way you described it to me was it was the execution chamber.
Execution chamber,
And did you ever hear or see anything like that when you were there?
No, there was no executions when I was there. That had happened. You can get sentenced to death. But the biggest concern was, this is still pre-97, when Hong Kong hadn't been handed back to China. So a lot of people were worried in 1997 when China took over Hong Kong again. The Red Army were just going to march across that border and execute everybody who was in prison. That was a worry. That was a real worry for all those guys. They all thought they were going to get executed.
Did you think that?
I was concerned that if I did my whole sentence, the full 6 years, if I kept getting time added on, and if you have a proper fight where somebody gets injured, you can get another criminal charge. I could have been in there in 1997. And I was a little bit concerned about it, yeah.
So see when you were saying there, you were moved then into the Cat A+ category.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So where does that take you then? So these people are even more crazy than the first fucking lot.
So you're in there, and these are the guys where you can't come out your cell unless you've got 3 guards on you. Nobody mixes. You do your exercise yard in one of those cages. You get an hour in a cage every once a week or something.
Crimes were they in for?
Probably eating their own family. No, these were the top guys. These were like triad bosses. These are guys who committed multiple murders. These are the guys who are psychotic. These were the guys who are dangerous.
And you're still only 19, roughly, at this point.
Yeah, 19 I would have been, yeah.
And you find yourself in that crazy
Yeah. That was a place where the lights on like this 24/7. They don't turn the lights off in the cells. The lights on like this 24/7. Hey, the cells were a wee bit bigger, so that was quite nice.
So
yeah,
you then started to get moved.
So what happened was they decided to drop me to a Category C prisoner. And I got moved from that prison because I was giving them too much hassle to another prison, which was an island. It used to be a leper colony in the South China Sea called Hailing Chow. So it's one of these wee tropical islands. And so I was moved there. So on that island, there's 3 prisons. There's the OAP prison. Lots of people are old who go there. There's a drug addict treatment centre. And there's Lai Sun prison, which was where I was sent to. So we get in a boat, across the South China Sea to this place, Hailing Chow, which was beautiful. It only had fences. No grey curved walls, no gun turrets anymore, just fencing. And I was moved into a cell with 12 other guys.
It was a bit like a Chinese Alcatraz then. There's no way you can escape.
No way you can escape that, man. There's no way. The alarm did go off, so there's a siren that went off on the island every time somebody tried to escape, but they had nowhere to go. And even an Olympic swimmer couldn't have made it. They would have got eaten by a shark or killed by a ship. It was too far from anywhere. You know, there's no way you could get off that island.
What was your first experience arriving on the island then, getting into that prison?
It was actually really good. It was very, very good. I was in the reception area waiting to see the reception officer, where I met this Nigerian dude called Matthew James, who had met all the way back when I was on remand in Pickhook. And he was just about to get released. And so he spoke English. It was near enough the first English I'd spoken in 18 months. And he told me what it was like, what to do, how to do it. That was amazing. And then I went to see the officer. Officer Wong. Thank you. Went in to see him. Nicest prison officer I'd met. He was like, Stewart, what can we do to help you? Oh, Gowling, Chatlaw 90760 is my prison number, so they call you by that, not Stewart, obviously. And he was like, so how are you? I'm like, what? I'm okay, thanks. Thanks for asking. And he said, is there anything else we can do? I said, can you put me on the Chinese diet, please? He said, yep, done. Because at Pickwick, they wouldn't let me go in the Chinese diet.
What is the Chinese diet?
Oh, you know, when you first go in, it's the worst that you could possibly have. Fish heads and rice. But after a year and a half of starvation, it was the best food I ever had. And so in the morning, you would get a plate of rice and fish heads. You get an orange at night time as well. I didn't get an orange because they suppose I got enough vitamin C from the cheese. So I didn't get an orange at Pickwick. And Lyson, I got an orange. At night time, you got soup at lunchtime. And at night time, you got like another plate of rice with veg and maybe a chicken wing. I remember my first chicken wing with ginger and garlic. And sometimes a meatball like that. It was heaven. The diet, I was full for the first time in a year and a half. My first meal.
You were saying you were sharing a cell there with another 10 prisoners.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Do you know what? They put me in with the store guys. So the store guys can't rule the place, do you know what I mean? They're in charge of the clothes and everything. And they're the ones who'd been in Pickwick for a long time already. Maybe had served 5, 6, 7 years. And we're seeing out. It's more, I know it's not an open prison, but it's more like that kind of more relaxed regime. So they're like seeing out the last year of their sentence. They're trusted guys, they know the system, and they're good guys to hang out with. So I moved into that cell, and it was really, really, honestly, straight away the first day, it was so much better. It was incredible, it really was. I knew some of them from Pickwick. They knew me from Pickwick. They were like, wow, you survived, mate. I went, yeah, I'm here.
It's mad. I know you showed me your prison number on your arm there. When did you get that? Is that like a
That's
reminder?
recently. I mean, that's something I did myself.
Right.
Yeah.
You also told me there was a story where you were admitted to hospital in that island prison. Is that correct? Or there was a synchronicity. Was that the old prison?
No, that's the island prison.
So what happened?
Oh, God, man, that's crazy. Playing table tennis, split my head open. And so if you have a cut or anything like that, you have to report it to an officer immediately, because if you get seen with a bruise or a cut and you haven't reported it, you get done for fighting and you get 5 days, 7 days, 14 days added onto your sentence. So I went so we all, those 3 prisons I told you about on the island, we all share the same hospital. So I get taken up to the hospital. Now, by this time, I've been there for quite a long time. Your name's passed around. People can't know who you are. I'm like standing there waiting to go and see the doctor. A wee bit of blood dripping from my head. Just standing there with some like rough kind of new looking prisoners and stuff. Look pretty shit. Now I just hear my name, Stewart. I'm like, shh, mate. You're not allowed to talk. If you talk, you get your head kicked in by the guards. I'm like, shut up, mate. You know, it's how I was speaking Cantonese. He said my name again. Stewart. Oh my God. I look at him, spotty face, messy up hair. He goes, it's Lennon. It's him, right enough. And I don't know how we organised it, but I went in to see the doctor and I started saying, oh, I've got concussion, feigning all the symptoms for concussion, and he feigned some symptoms, and we get kept put into the hospital ward together. We spent a week in the hospital ward together, me and my ex-triad box. Unbelievable. He basically started hitting the smack too hard, and he ended up doing 6 months in the drug addiction treatment centre for stealing 6 CDs. He said he just walked out the shop with 6 CDs in his hand and got busted.
After all the fucking
After all
robberies.
this stuff, right? That's what you got done for. Because the drugs just take hold of you, mate. You think you're in charge of the drugs. You're never in charge. They're just waiting for that moment where they're going to take over your life. You can all talk about, oh, you know, he's good on the coke, or he's good in the smack, you know, he has a normal life up to a point. You'll have it up to. Functioning drug addicts are only up to a point, and then something will happen, and then the drug is functioning. You're not functioning anymore. I've seen it time and again. Oh, he's functional. He can handle it. You know that guy, he can handle his drink. Where is he now? That guy can handle his coke. Where is he now? They take over you. You can't help it. That's what happens. And here we have a triad boss in charge of all this shit getting done for stealing 6 CDs. And he looks like fucking shit. But we spent a good week together in the hospital. It was quite amazing. He actually wrote a letter for me, which will be in part, I've still got that letter because I wrote a prison diary. So all this is in my prison diary, by the way. And that letter is in my prison diary as well. And that letter will be in part 2.
Incredible. So when you come out of the hospital and you get back onto the wing,
Aye.
when do you know you're getting released then? How long
I had no
more
idea
do you spend?
because
there?
I was still getting into fights quite a lot. So I had so much time added onto my sentence. I had no idea what my lib date was, my release date. I had no idea. So I was sentenced like to kind of hard labour, they call it. So I'm working all the time in the prison, and I made the ashtrays for the litter bins in Hong Kong. So every litter bin in Hong Kong has one of my ashtrays. And just one day I'm in the metal workshop and my number's called out. Gowling, Chatterling, they tie you. Sorry, sorry for that. Tie you. So that's my number. Tie you means see 1 month. See 1 month? You see the governor the month before you're released. I was like, what? I've got a month left? I had no idea. So you go down and see the governor. They just do this thing, how you doing, where you going to go and stuff like that. I went, oh. What, I've got 1 month? He went, hey, you've got 1 month left. You leave on the X dates, whatever it was. And that's you. I'm like, well, where am I going? I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what was happening. And that was it. I was given 1 month. And I'm like, I went back up to the workshop and told everybody. They're like, wow, oh yeah. And it was like a big celebration because nobody knew. So like at that time I was friends with the triad boss because obviously in the prison there's triad bosses as well. So I was friends with the triad boss there and he kind of protected me quite a lot because I kind of done some stuff for him and he kind of protected me. So that last month he really protected me just to make sure I didn't get any extra time added on.
Doing some dodgy stuff in there. I don't know if you can speak about that. Obviously just to survive as well, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
You're befriending these people.
Well, it's not just that as well. I mean, well... I didn't think like that. Okay, so I'm autistic. I'm unable to be manipulative like that. So I did things that just turned out to be good things for them. You know, like there was a guy who was going around grassing people and it was the day before he was due to get released and he was getting deported back to Pakistan, a guy called Mahmood, and he walked past my cell because he had been cleaning the cell up and there was a cleaning cupboard there. And he walked past my cell the day before he was supposed to get released. And he was a big grass. People fucking hated him. I went out, grabbed him, beat him up in front of everybody. And we got taken to the governor's office. And we both got added 14 days to our sentence there and then, even though he was supposed to be getting released the next day. So I did about 14 days in the hole, came out, and the guys were like, "Oh yeah, you're very good. Oh yeah, you're very good." So they quite like that. And yeah, it's just, you act appropriately. You know, you don't let them lose face. The triad boss says something, you do it. Nobody should lose face. There was a guy who was a sexual predator and they found out he was getting released and they dealt with him in the metal workshop as well.
What happened to him? Can you tell me?
Well, they used, let's just say, it's a family show and they used sharpened bits of metal on a piece of his anatomy that he used in the committal of his crimes so that he wouldn't be able to use that bit of his anatomy for quite a long time to go. And every time he did, he would see the scars.
Well deserved then.
I don't know. I'm not judge, jury or executioner, mate.
So take me back.
You did these things. These are things that happen during jail. Jail's tough. Jail's rough. Especially in there. People were killed for less.
Moving on in the story, Stuart, right?
Yeah.
Can you take me to the day you were released then?
That was incredible. So the night before, remember, we don't get cigarettes in this place. And the store guy came up to me and he gave me 3 cigarettes for each year I'd done. Gong Yu. If you ever watch this, Gong Yu, guy. He gave me 3 cigarettes and to smoke. And I was offering it to other people. He says, no, these are for you. There's other guys in there hadn't had a cigarette for months. I wasn't allowed to share those cigarettes. He's a triad. I had to sit there in my bunk, on my bed, and smoke these 3 cigarettes myself. I didn't sleep that night. I was buzzing. In the morning, you get up. There's a truck that takes you down to where the ferry comes to pick you up. You get the ferry over to HMS Tamar, it was at the time, on Hong Kong Island. And then you get a bus, prison bus from HMS Tamar up to Victoria Prison. Victoria Prison is, old Victorian prison, as it says. You get taken in there and you get made put into, the squats position. And I didn't know how long I was going to be there for. I'm still not realising what's happening, what's going on. It's all a bit crazy. And I'm in the squat position for 10 seconds. And this guy walks over. He went, "Are you Stewart?" I went, trying to remember if I was Stewart. But yeah, and he said, "Come here." I went up to this desk and had this bag. And he emptied the bag onto the desk. My watch, my 1990 diary, my earrings. I was into heavy metal there. And all my personal belongings, my sunglasses. Start putting them on. This is amazing. He said, "Are you going to give me any trouble?" I went, "No." He said, "Come on then." We turn round. We start, and it's like, kind of in the film, we start walking towards the old Victorian prison doors, right? The ones that's huge. But then there's a small door cut into it and you see the light shining through it, right? We walk towards this door and it opens. And the sunlight just floods in. And I've got no handcuffs on for the first time. No shackle, anything. And I step out onto the street of Hong Kong. The sense of freedom was incredible. And then we turn to the right and there's a minibus with a door open and we walk back down to the minibus and I'm just totally free. I'm thinking I could just go anywhere and do anything I want. Get to the minibus, I get inside, sit down, and that's when I turn around. There's a guy with a gun at that corner. There's a guy at a gun with that corner. And down there, there's a guy with a gun. Just in case I'd done a runner for it. Put their guns away, came to the minibus, took me to the airport. I was only there until for a few hours, until the Heathrow jumbo jet flight at 10 o'clock at night. So I get taken to the aircraft last. Everybody else is seated nicely. Go up. My passport is handed to the pilot, the captain. It's a bit embarrassing, but I'm clutching my paper bag with my letters and my prison diary and stuff in it, and a packet of wafers just in case. Because you're so institutionalised. I got on the plane, they put me into economy, and I just sit there. And I just remember looking out the window, going, I wish I was sitting on the other side so I could see Hong Kong Island when we took off. But I was on the wrong side, I was on the left-hand side of the plane. And as I took off, I just looked at the lights of Hong Kong for the last time, flying past, sitting in a comfy chair for the first time in 3 years. That was incredible. And once we got to altitude, I see this cabin crew coming towards me. This woman who had taken me to my seat earlier. And she eye contact with me. I'm like, oh God, what's happening now? And she came in. She went, could you come with me, please? So, still grabbing. I'm still sitting there, bolt upright, like you've been told to do in prison for the last 3 years, not moving, with my wee bag. And she took me up to business class. Sat me down in business class. And went, is there anything I can get for you, sir? I said, water, please. That was it. And that was it. I flew back to the UK. And to the next chapter of my life, I suppose.
Must have been some experience.
That was incredible, mate.
Through that being upgraded to business class. As you said, you've lived your life for years. Shackles, handcuffs, mixed up with fucking triads, robberies, all that stuff in prison, mate. And then to be sitting on that plane, getting upgraded to business class, as I said, and then knowing that you're going back to London, was it, obviously, and then back to Glasgow.
But I didn't know where I was going. That was the thing.
You didn't know?
It was all a big mystery.
That's mad.
But compassion. She showed me compassion. That was incredible.
You're only 21 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, such a short piece of your story, but also so fascinating, so incredible, amazing. And also there was a story there, I know, when you were telling the story about being down at the harbour and when you were busted that time, the police came and your friend was with you, and it was also very traumatic for her. And you've just spoke to her recently.
Well, I actually saw her for the first time in 2017 when I went back to Hong Kong for the high school reunion. So I did see her then, but we'd lost touch again. We didn't really speak because there was all these things going on. But I've just got back in touch with her again because she was traumatised that day. And that trauma stayed with her for a very long time. And this is the thing. This book isn't here about to dramatise and glorify what happened. There's got to be a reason behind the book. And the reason for me is to make sure we can do something in the future to stop this happening to other people. And that's my whole goal with it. I apologise to everybody I've affected back then. I'm not trivialising it at all. And I hope people find out that after prison, I've done everything I possibly can to try and make up for
Definitely.
what I did.
And I think, as I said, such a young age, Stuart, and we've both agreed that because it is such a short part of your story, you've agreed to come back on, do a part 2, and we'll tap into the other side of things. You've got so many stories there. It's fascinating.
Okay.
But before we finish up on this episode, if there's another message you could send out to the audience watching, now is the time. Yeah,
just don't let this happen to kids. You have to intervene. Don't think you're in the wrong place and you shouldn't do it. If you see a kid that's struggling, you have to intervene, because what happened to me should not have happened to any kid. And I think we have to hold up, be a bit more responsible for taking care of the vulnerable in society. I didn't know I was autistic at the time, but we have to learn more about neurodiversity and how to spot when a child is struggling. I think it's very important.
Great message, Stuart. It's been an absolute honour, such a legend to have on the show. I'm buzzing for part 2. If you can shake my hand. Well done, mate. It was an honour to have you on. Thank you very much. We'll see you again soon.
Okay, cheers, Jim. Take care.